Watch this.
Despite a booming population, Idaho has been baffled to the bottom when it comes to doctors. Not enough and not young enough. So do lawmakers have a plan to keep our shortage from becoming a full-blown crisis? The Gem State became the first to ban it, which led to the first lawsuit to block it. Now the woman fighting Idaho's transgender athlete law is ready to stop fighting for fear of harassment. Generations of ranchers, farmers, and fish producers are feeding Idaho and the world. So we went behind the gates, the fields, and even underwater to see how it's done. 43 of Idaho's 44 counties face a physician shortage problem. I mean, there's a reason we're last in the nation for doctors per capita, right? And it's a state of scarcity we didn't slide into overnight. And sure, we've seen a surge in people moving here, but not enough of them have been primary care physicians or doctors. It's a problem that the governor, medical leaders, and local health operations are trying to figure out. First step, form a special committee. Second step, a meeting of said special committee. And on the agenda, what's causing the problem, what are the solutions from other states, and what realistic goals can the Gem State set? Joe Paris listened in.
Data in recent years, really dating back decades, shows that the state of Idaho is struggling in the medical sector. Idaho ranks 50th in the nation for physicians per capita, 49th for active primary physicians.
We've got two incredible forces that are impacting Idaho: rapid population growth and aging physician getting out of healthcare.
Idaho medical education leaders and lawmakers are now developing an ambitious plan to address the state's severe physician shortage. The State Board of Education's Idaho Medical Education Plan Working Group. A big question looms: how many doctors are really needed?
I've often been stunned when I've worked the math in that we could bring in roughly 1,500 additional physicians just today, just to get us to the national average of active physicians per capita. So the number is so big.
Dr. Tracy Farnsworth is president and CEO of the Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine, ICOM. Like other leaders, he's looking for ideas across the country.
We just need to move and with due haste in all these ways. And by the way, I have some friends in West Virginia at their schools of medicine that speak very admirably about the incredibly creative things they've done and are continuing to do.
West Virginia is a place that the working group is studying. They have dramatically improved their doctor-to-patient ratios through aggressive investment and incentive programs.
They also have targeted loan forgiveness, so they maintain multiple incentive programs for students and trainees who are willing to live in state. So medical student loan program offers up to $10,000 per year in loan forgiveness for students who commit to practice in primary care or other needed specialties in underserved areas. The Health Sciences Service Program offers a one-time, roughly $30,000 loan repayment to new graduates who match into primary or emergency medicine residencies in West Virginia.
And I really resonate with the West Virginia model, quite frankly. And again, as you've pointed out, they kind of have a multi-pronged attack. They were using loan repayment, scholarships, and UME seat expansion.
Dr. Ted Epperly is president and CEO of Full Circle Health. He is focused on developing graduate medical education in Idaho, things like residencies.
It's going to take some loan repayment mechanisms, which we're starting to do quite a bit with. Something we've not done is scholarships on the front end, loan repayment on the back end, some UME expansion, some GME expansion, and all of a sudden Idaho is going to start looking even better than West Virginia.
But at the center of it all, there needs to be a target. What is the actual goal Idaho is working towards?
Do we want to be 49th? I mean, what is the metric we're actually looking for here? Just something better, or is it an actual target? Is it 49th in the state? And so then what's the math that you need to do to get there? To that target. And I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, I would like to be less 50th.
A clear goal is so important, and a sound bite is powerful. So as I listen to this discussion and I hear what's being said, the stake in the ground is we want to be at 25 out of the states, at least 50% of what the national average is. And if that number is 1,500 new physicians added to our force, whatever that number is, I think that's a way for us to all start visioning what it's going to take.
And all of this is really hinging on paying for it. In another part of the conversation, here in Idaho and across the country, Medicaid. Because, did you know, Medicaid is the second largest source of funding for GME, and that is basically the graduate medical education, so residencies or fellowships for specialized training across the United States. Places like Idaho, they can fund those GME programs through Medicaid. So Brian, when Medicaid cuts are now another factor that Idaho has to take a look at, it's another hurdle. We also know that with only so many slices of the pie, so to speak, in terms of state dollars and federal dollars, paying for ideas like a state-sponsored medical school is complicated. Dr. Epperly, though, did point out, though, that through the big, beautiful bill, the state of Idaho could get between $500 million to $1 billion between now and 2032 to help pay for some rural medical things. However, it's hard to set all these programs when you don't know your funding source and you're also trying to catch up based on decades of growth.
Rural medical things, I don't expect that includes paying doctors to live in places they may not want to live.
That's true. I mean, if you say, hey, you know, we can get these doctors special incentives to come to places like rural Idaho and work in residencies and then commit to being in a place for 3 years, that's one thing. However, if there are not the medical facilities or the tools that they feel they need to be successful in those areas, it's another thing to add on top. Developing new medical centers, making sure they have the latest technology.
Right.
And a lot of this, too, is going to count on Medicaid, Medicare, and federal dollars, which are being impacted, whether you disagree with it or not. They're being impacted in a way that to do the math and figure out what you need is very complicated.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out these bigger hospital systems like St. Luke's are also rural hospitals because those who live in rural parts of the state have to go there to see a specialist that they might need to see.
Yeah.
So it's all part of that. All right, thank you very much, Joe. Well, he served in the State House for nearly 25 years, and he apparently would like 4 more of them. Idaho's lieutenant governor is officially running for re-election, hoping to become the first 2-term second in command since Brad Little and Butch Otter. Scott Bedke took office in January of 2023 after winning the 2022 election with more than 64% of the vote, so pretty favorable. Before that, he spent 20 years in the Idaho House of Representatives, ultimately serving as Speaker of the House. Bedke's re-election has support from Governor Brad Little, as well as the 3 of Idaho's previous governors. So far, no one else has stepped into this race, but we're not in uncharted territory here because Bedke has a history of cruising through primaries. He beat Priscilla Giddings, you might remember, for the GOP nomination, then cruised past his Democratic rival back in 2022. Born in Twin Falls and raised in Oakley, he calls himself a constitutional conservative, valuing freedoms, limited interference from government, and tax relief. Oh, and all the days Governor Little has been out of state these past 3 years plus, and Bedke's been in charge, he has yet to issue any executive orders, like banning vaccines or sending troops to the Mexican border, like his predecessor did. Primary kicks off in May of next year.
I know that this is right. It's something that I have to do. This lawsuit discriminates against me and so many others.
That is Lindsay Hecox. On the day she filed a lawsuit against Governor Brad Little and the state of Idaho for passing the country's first ever ban on transgender athletes competing in women's sports. Well, late last week, Lindsay decided this wasn't something she has to do and suggested the U.S. Supreme Court dismiss her case. At the time she filed the lawsuit, Lindsay just wanted a chance to run for Boise State's women's cross-country team and called the law, which was then known as House Bill 500, unconstitutional, a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. An appeals court blocked Idaho's law from being enforced, which is how Lindsay was able to play soccer for the women's club soccer team at BSU. But while trying and failing to make the Bronco cross-country and track and field teams, Lindsay's lawsuit made it all the way to the Supreme Court, with the justices agreeing last July to hear the case for their 2025-26 docket. Then last week, Lindsay, now a senior at BSU, asked the court to dismiss her lawsuit, suggesting it is now moot. Why is she giving up the fight? Well, Lindsay says she has faced significant challenges along the way, including the death of her father and negative public scrutiny because of this lawsuit. She worries the harassment will only continue to amplify if this case continues, and she would just like all of it to stop. Lindsay says she will also stop playing any women's sport in Idaho, and she won't refile a lawsuit. However, Idaho's Solicitor General told the Supreme Court, well, Idaho plans to oppose this dismissal and ask for more time to give the reasons why, which hopefully we'll find out by the end of this month. The Supreme Court has yet to set a date to hear Hecox v. Little, and there's another case from Virginia. They agreed to consider this upcoming session, so it's still in the books. And for all intents and purposes, the first state to ban transgender athletes, appears to have nothing stopping it from being enforced. Of course, unless the Supreme Court says otherwise. There's been a lot going on with the Boise State football team this season, from the underwhelming season opening loss to South Florida to the overwhelming the Eagles of Eastern Washington last Friday for the home opener, to the construction taking place in the stadium's north end zone. Well, fittingly, there's a lot going on with the hand-painted helmets the Broncos unveiled yesterday, which they plan to wear during their next home game. They're calling it the front porch of Idaho. And if someone can please explain that reference to me, I would greatly appreciate it. The right side of the helmet shows the Bronco logo charging forward. The other side displays the Idaho State Capitol building, which is backed by the Boise foothills. Then on the back side, you'll see Albertson Stadium and the blue itself, which is sitting, of course, right along the river. But the best part, for, well, no particular reason, that would be the front, which one might assume you'd find the porch, but you can't. Instead, there is a bumper highlighting the 208. How nice. Which is why we're now good with the front porch, I guess. That design, created by Nebraska-based artist Armando Villarreal, who has created specialty helmets for other programs like Michigan, Tennessee, and Utah. You've probably seen them. There's the 208. Yeah, the Broncos will wear the new helmet on September 27th in their game against Appalachian State. The team has a bye this week. They're going to pick things back up next Saturday against Air Force on September 20th. You've likely heard the phrase farm to table, but how often do you actually see or go to the farm behind your food that puts it on the table? Well, a busload of chefs got the full meal deal when they hit the road to see the ranches, fields, and fish that feed the state of Idaho. And Hunter Funk went along for the ride, right, Hunter?
Yeah, a long ride, I'll tell you that. It's 2 hours there, 2 hours back, and then all over the Magic Valley. But the part of this field trip, part culinary experience, showed about 35 chefs and food buyers what Idaho agriculture brings to the table. It was put on by the Idaho State Department of Agriculture's Idaho Preferred Program. The program identifies and promotes food and agriculture products grown, raised, or processed in the Gem State. And they help Idaho consumers find local products.
Well, we're an ag state and we're really proud of it. So we want to be able to showcase the diversity that we have, and there's no better opportunity than now. So, we started the day out at a cattle operation, and, we've made way to an organic mill. We've gone to a creamery. We're at an orchard now. We've even gone and visited trout operations. We help consumers and others in the community understand where their food comes from. And we help them be able to identify not just where it comes from, but how can they build relationships around it and how can they start to integrate it into their regular lives.
More than 185 different commodities are produced in the Gem State. More than 24,000 farms and ranches cover our landscape, and 96% of them are family owned, which is why they push to educate people about shopping local, because it contributes to Idaho's economy. And because it's so local, it can be tough for our chefs to figure out how to get it to their restaurants, which is why the Department of Ag wanted to take them to their operations, see how it works firsthand, and work with the producers to see how to get it into their stores. Well, coming up on the news at 6, we're going to take you inside those operations and hear the challenges that the producers face and why they keep doing what they do. Brian?
Yeah, I would imagine transportation and maybe the amount of food they might need could be an issue when it comes to this, shopping local.
Yes, it can be very difficult. I mean, we talk about a creamery who wants to stay super local, but again, it's challenging because they're super local, they come to Boise maybe once a week.
Gotcha.
If that. So
yeah,
kind of got to balance it all, but meet the producers. That's the way to get it.
Yeah, it's about getting it from the farm to the chef, then to the table.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, Hunter. We look forward to that at 6.
The smoke in the air lately making for some really dramatic sunrises and sunsets. And hey, before we get to your weather, though, quick check of traffic out there. Things stacking up at the Flying Y heading out of downtown Boise and away from the airport as well. Everything westbound as per usual, starting to slow heading out of the City of Trees. And then you can see along I-84 westbound, kind of stop and go, slow and go as you get through Meridian all the way out to Nampa. But by the time you hit Franklin Boulevard in Nampa, things look like they're back up to freeway speed. So all in all, looks like your drive times right now take you about 10 minutes, I should say, to get from Boise to Meridian, and almost half an hour if you're heading from Boise into Nampa. So heads up there on those slow conditions. So if you look outside right now, not much weather-wise to impede traffic. It is a little overcast in some spots, and yes, still a little hazy at the surface. So all in all, looks like a bit of a great Tuesday. Pretty comfy though. We're in the low 80s across the Treasure Valley right now from Boise out to Ontario, mid 70s for Sun Valley and McCall. It is starting to get a little bit active, or has been for the last hour or two, north of Sun Valley up towards the Chalice area. There was a flash flood warning in place because of these storms earlier this evening. Looks like most of this activity, though, will stay north of our area. So Sun Valley, you may hear a couple rumbles of thunder and get some quick rounds of rain this evening, but this is the kickoff to what will be a stretch of active weather from now through Friday. Hit or miss showers and thunderstorms across the region. Heaviest rain from the system coming in looks to favor eastern Oregon and the Idaho mountains. Highest precipitation chances for the Treasure Valley looks to be late tomorrow night into Thursday, holding on into Friday. But there is still some uncertainty as far as exact timing and potential impacts. But the culprit behind the active weather is this low pressure center. The core of this system has barely moved over the last 24 hours, but starting tonight into tomorrow, it will start drifting eastward. And as it comes, it'll continue pumping moisture into eastern Oregon, southwest Idaho, and then we'll start triggering also some lift and instability, all the things you need to put those thunderstorms together. So in the short term, as I roll this forward, the storms tonight will be over and done with by sunset. That looks pretty certain. Tomorrow morning, we'll wake up to some cloud cover, not a ton of sunshine early in the day, but tomorrow afternoon, where that sun does break through, it will allow temperatures to warm into the 80s in the Treasure Valley till tomorrow, but then also will provide kind of the catalyst for those storms, maybe around 6 or 7 o'clock in places like Nampa, rolling northward and staying mostly centered over eastern Oregon tomorrow night, but still through Thursday morning and into the day Thursday, there's the potential for some of those storms to drop some heavy rain, bring lightning strikes and gusty winds. I don't know that I'd cancel your evening plans tomorrow night. The storms look to be coming in later in the evening, but still something to be aware of if you are out and about Wednesday into Thursday. Tomorrow morning, we'll wake up to temperatures right around 60 for much of the Treasure Valley, mid 40s in McCall early on. We'll still hit those low 80s for most of the Treasure Valley, mid 70s with a partly to mostly cloudy sky in the Magic Valley tomorrow. And then temperatures cool into the mid 70s as the core of that system comes in. We keep showers and thunderstorms off and on in the mix through Friday, briefly drying out on Saturday and getting a bit warmer.
In the market for a 120,000 square foot end of the century modern sitting on about, 100 acres. Well, the city of Nampa may have a deal for you, although it does come with some steep maintenance costs. Or maybe you're just looking for something a little more modest. Well, there's a new mortgage new mortgage rate, I should say, that could help. Here's Abby Davis with the 411.
The rock fire burning near Donnelly is now 92% contained. The Forest Service says it's burned nearly 2,800 acres. The Valley County Sheriff's Office lifted all evacuation orders for the surrounding areas. Road closures, though, are still in effect. 260 people are currently fighting the fire, which started nearly a month ago. The city of Nampa is weighing its options when it comes to the Ford Idaho Center. The city says it wants to gauge market interest rather than just handing it over to the College of Western Idaho. Nampa has sent out a solicitation of interest to gauge market interest and identify potential buyers for the center. City officials say it's just one of the options being considered for the property, and CWI taking over is still a possibility. If Nampa transfers the Idaho Center to CWI, the cost to maintain and operate the center, which has cost the city $23 million over 2 decades, would fall to the community college. The downside is that they could lose out on the income of an outright sale. Idaho home buyers are finally seeing some relief as mortgage rates drop to their lowest level in more than a year. The 30-year fixed rate just dipped out of the high 6% range to the mid to low 6s. On Friday, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate dropped to 6.29%. Local realtors say it's the lowest rate since last fall and the biggest one-day drop in more than a year. Big news from Zoo Boise. A 1-year-old red panda named Twix is in town. He's only here temporarily while another zoo gets his new home ready, but that means 5 red pandas now call the Red Panda Passage home. And Twix has roots here in Boise. His dad, Mars, was born here back in 2013, so you could say the city is in his DNA. The exhibit was designed for moments like this, housing, breeding, and giving these endangered animals a safe stopover when needed. That's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Davis.
Almost as soon as we talked about doctor shortages here in the state of Idaho, I could have guaranteed, bet money that we were going to get a series of messages that say a lot like this. Like this. Get ready. This one from Chuck. Our legislators are a big reason doctors don't want to practice here. Let's start by letting doctors treat patients the way they were trained and not keep writing laws to sue them. How about asking their opinion on health laws, for one, before you just pass them? Is it possible that we should stop passing laws that would put doctors in jail, says LDC in Boise? Meanwhile, no doctor is going to consider coming to Idaho as long as our legislators make medical decisions for them and legislate possible jail time, says Ken. And this one, a little bit long, but some people are thinking it's because doctors have left. Well, remember why. This started when the abortion issue became law. Doctors left because of their fear of being sued, and they couldn't do their jobs. People have forgotten all about that. Interesting is we're at the bottom for education and health care, two things that have been dismantled over the years. Now, granted, it's been a few years. This didn't happen overnight, as we mentioned. It's been 10 years where Idaho has been near the bottom when it comes to per pupil spending. This one, I'm going to go with is like sitting on your front porch and seeing all the great things that represent Idaho. The front porch of Idaho? What about the Tetons or the Sawtooths? Where are those?
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.